First, I just want to ask Mark to come up. He started sharing a testimony last week, and he had a little bit more to say. So I just want him to finish that testimony because it's important, I think, to what God is saying to us today.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, a couple weeks ago, I heard something in here that said, someone had said, just rest. And I was like, yeah, I kind of did that, and it worked, and I think I should. Thanks. It's not like I was reminding people to do that all weekend, so. Which, for those of you that came out, thank you very much for coming out and supporting us this weekend for the event, and the worship team. Thank you for leading the worship for that. It was a spirit-filled event. I think it was really good. But I felt like I should share this, and last week, things got carried away with the Holy Spirit, and nobody had time to speak, and it was okay. And so, but I felt like I wanted to give the second part of that, which now that I've seen what has happened in the last week, it's like, okay, well, there was a little more to that story, the things that to add on to it that I wouldn't have shared last week because I didn't know it last week. And man, this, I don't know how many times I've heard Stacy up here saying, we don't plan any of this stuff. It just works together, and I'm just like, that whole worship set just like is like, I mean, that's the testimony I'm giving, never stop. He never stops working. Even when you don't see it, he's working. Just everything just flowing through there, and it's like, wow, that really is true. It just the Holy Spirit brings it together. So anyway, I want to back up about 10 or 11 years. Don't worry, I'm not going to take it day by day. To get to tell you where I'm at and how I got here, just got to back up a little bit. So I'm originally from California, and about 10 or 11 years ago, I was working for a company. I was miserable. It wasn't fun, and I didn't enjoy my job. I wanted to go on a vacation with my wife and kids, and they said, no, you can't take the time off. And so I had the thought, I just kind of popped in my head, well, maybe I should get into teaching and be on the same schedule as my wife and kids. And it wasn't really a whole lot more to it than just that thought popped into my head. And I kind of, thought about it occasionally, but I just went to work miserable, and it's like, I don't know how to get into it. I don't know where to go. Well, fast forward a month or so later, I'm sitting at the desk in my room, and my wife is laying on the bed, and my phone rings. And the phone is from a person, the name says Karen Clements. And I look over at my wife and say, why is your boss calling me? Where's your phone? Is your phone missing? And she goes, I don't know, just answer the phone. So I did, and I said, hey, good afternoon, this is Mark, how can I help you? And you looking for my wife? She said, no, I'm looking for you. And fast forward a little bit, she said, have you ever thought about teaching? I need a middle school teacher, a junior high teacher. There's junior high out there. I need a junior high teacher. Long story short, that's a lengthy story, but I took the job, and I started teaching. I taught my first year. I had 12 students, 7th and 8th grade combined, and I taught them all the subjects. And at the end of the year, I knew two things. Number one, I wanted to keep teaching. Number two, I didn't want to do it there. And so during that school year, we had sold our house. We moved in with our in-laws, which wasn't really a good situation. I love my in-laws. They're wonderful people, but I don't like living with them. And so it was like, okay, so I want to keep teaching. I don't want to do it there. I need a new place to live. How's this all going to work out? And so the principal, I didn't want to go back there. The principal didn't want me back, but neither one of us had another option. So neither one of us told anything. Well, as we're trying to figure out what to do, my wife comes to me and she says, my brother needs some help. I said, okay, well, help him. And, well, he needs some family support, and he lives in North Carolina. I said, does that mean we'd have to move out there? Or are you going out there for a week or so? Or what does this mean? She goes, no, we'd move out there and help him. And so I pulled out a map, and I looked at it. I said, California's here. North Carolina's here. Okay, let's go. All right, let's do it. So we didn't have a place to live. We didn't know where we were going to stay. We didn't know what we were going to do. But we packed up the Penske truck. We sold it and gave away everything that didn't fit in it. And we drove across country. So we got out here. And I still knew I wanted to get into teaching, so I started looking into it and looking in the area. There's a thing that's called lateral entry program, which you have a degree. You can get a teaching degree. And so I started filling out all the paperwork for it. But I didn't want to just jump in, so I wanted to get into substituting so I could get to know some of the schools so I know where to work. And by the way, we did find a place to live that was like 5 houses away from her brother, right around the corner. And everything just worked out. But in order to become a substitute teacher, you have to take a class. Well, we moved out here in August, and the next class available, because they were all full, they did it once a month, and the next class available wasn't until December. I'm like, I can't wait that long. So I said, what can I do? And they said, well, you know, if you go and sit down out in front of the classroom and somebody doesn't show up, you can take their seat. So I did. I showed up at 7:30 in the morning. I got there, and they said, right now there's 2 people who haven't showed up, but we give them an hour. So you have to wait till 9 o'clock. So I sat in the hallway right outside the door, and everybody just walking by, I'm like, you're not in that class, are you? No, keep going, keep moving. And at 9 o'clock, the teacher came out and said, you guys are still here. There's me and one other that were doing the same thing. And she said, we have 2 that aren't show up. Go to the registrars, pay for it, and come back to class. So we did. We went down there, got in the class, got through there. And by October, I was subbing into different schools. And I was looking for a permanent job. My license is in business, CT business classes, and those are pretty popular classes, so teachers don't just leave them. And so there just weren't any available. But I subbed throughout the whole year, and over the summer I was looking for work, and I couldn't find anything. On a Thursday, about 2 weeks before school started, I had a job interview that was about a 2-hour drive from Fayetteville. I'm like, I gotta go somewhere. I was applying everywhere. And these jobs, they don't come open very often. So Wednesday morning, the day before I'm supposed to drive 2 hours for this interview, I open up my laptop and I look, and there's a job opening right here in Fayetteville. And so I emailed the principal, and I said, all right, I sent my application in there, and then I emailed the principal and said, so I am. I just put the application in. And he responded back to me about 10 minutes later. He said, do you want to come in for an interview? And I hit reply, and I started typing. No, I'm just putting applications in for fun. And I was like, nah, that's probably not the best answer. So I deleted that answer, and I said, yes, I would like to come in for an interview. And he called me in, and later on, we met at 1:30 that day, and at 3:30 in the afternoon on a Wednesday, about 2 weeks before school started, he offered me the job. And so I taught at Douglasburg for 5 years. It was just, things were just kind of flowing. God was working things. And I taught there for 5 years. I moved over to Southview Middle School for a couple of years, and then I went to, I did my principal internship. And while I was working on my principal internship, I was just working. In May of this year, I completed that program and was certified to become a principal or an assistant principal. And I spent my summer traveling to every single county outside of Cumberland County. Now, I applied in Cumberland County, but that's another story. But they didn't interview in Cumberland County, but I interviewed in every county that touches except Bladen County. There weren't many openings there either. But I was looking, and finally, about a week before school started, I had an interview in Scotland County. I had interviewed there for that was my third time interviewing there. And I came back and I was like, I don't know, this isn't working out. And I felt the Lord say to me, stop. Stop looking. I'm like, well, but I've been working for this for 2 years. What do you mean stop looking? Just stop. Focus on where you're at. Okay. So I went to the principal of my school, and I told her, I said, I don't know how the interview went. They didn't offer it to me there. I don't know. But here's where I'm at. I said, I'm just a teacher here. I am focused on being here, and I'm not looking anymore. I'm done for now looking. And I said, now, I'm not making any phone calls, but I'm taking phone calls if they come in. And she said, okay, that's reasonable. So I just was teaching. I was focused on my classes, my students there, and what I could do to make the school the best school I could make it. And about 3 weeks ago on a Monday night, I get a phone call. It was 7 o'clock at night. And I'm sitting there talking to my wife. My wife was trying to leave to go to some meeting or something. And I think she was coming to church to meet with some ladies or something. I don't know what she was doing. But she was getting ready to leave. And my phone rang as we're in the middle of our conversation. And the principal that I interviewed with, he said, I need to see you in my office tomorrow. And I'm thinking, my first thought was, I don't even work in your county. Why am I getting called in the principal's office, a county that I don't even work in? I don't understand this. But then I was like, you know what? I don't know. Maybe it's part of the process. So anyway, he said, I need to see you tomorrow, but I couldn't make it. So I went on Wednesday, and they interviewed me again. But at the end of this interview, they offered me the job. And so I had to think about it and say, I don't know. I got it pretty good right now. Right now, I got a 3-minute commute to my job. That's if I hit the light red. Yeah, it was like, I like most of my students. I like my coworkers. My principal is amazing. She's a wonderful lady. And she's doing really good things with the school, making some positive changes. And I don't know, do I want to go to another county 45 minutes away? And, I thought about it, and I talked to a few men that I trust and know that they want what's best for me, and talk to them, and they all pretty much said the same thing. You got two good options, make a choice. Like, that's not really helping, but okay, thanks, But it was pretty consistent, that I had two good options to make. I could have stayed where I was at, or I could have gone. And I did make the choice to go. And so I did all my paperwork, did my background check, did everything I needed to do, and we're waiting. And this is where the addition comes in, because I was waiting, and my background check hadn't come back. It's held up in California. I don't know. And so Friday, I contacted them. I said, hey, here's my physical paperwork, because I was waiting on test results from my doctor to final and sign the paperwork, and she signed them, and I sent those in, and I said, I'm going to call you during my planning period in an hour or so. And before I could call, she sent me an email. She said, all right, you're good to start on Monday. So all this stuff is working, is God working through, just pausing. And I think it was very interesting that this morning, it's one of the little girls in one of them flowery dresses that was running around this morning, and I'm gonna wrap it up here, but she came up and she goes, here's a blessing for you. And I was like, I hadn't read it. I just, okay, thanks, and I put it in my pocket. But during worship, I pulled it out and I looked at it, and it says, don't worry, pray. And on the back of it, it's got Philippians 4:6, and it's just got that one verse. But I'm gonna read verses 4 through 9, I think, or something, because I think it wraps up what was going on, to just waiting and being patient and all those steps that put me where God has put me now. What it says, be cheerful with joyous celebration in every season of life. Let your joy overflow and let gentleness be seen in every relationship, for our Lord is ever near. Don't be pulled in different directions or worried about a thing. Be saturated in prayer throughout each day, offering your faith-filled requests before God with overflowing gratitude. Tell him every detail of your life. Then God's wonderful peace that transcends human understanding will guard your heart and mind through Jesus Christ. Keep your thoughts continually fixed on all that is authentic and real, honorable and admirable, beautiful and respectful, pure and holy, merciful and kind, and fasten your thoughts on every glorious work of God, praising him always. Put into practice the example of all that you have heard from me or seen in my life, and the God of peace will be with you in all things. So, all right. Thank you.
God of peace. Yes. What a great example of how we walk out our faith, right? And just day by day, the little things. And Scott kind of said it earlier about how we no longer are on YouTube. We are now on Rumble. And I don't know if you guys remember, at the beginning of the year, I said God was going to move us. It was going to be painful probably at times. I didn't know when I said that we were going to have a whole lot of moving, like actual physical moving people. We moved, 8 to 10 families this year. So anyway, I just wanted to say that real quick that, sometimes it takes painful things for God to push us to go in another direction, right? So we're also moving banks as well, guys, just so you know. We're getting out of the big banks, and we're going into a small bank. For our church, I just want you guys to know that. God also has called us to do that. So there's moving, and I just encourage you all to move where God is telling you, right? And Mark was talking about that. Well, a couple weeks ago, I had a dream, and it was very interesting. It was a very, very clear, very strong, I actually call it a night vision because it was so clear. And in this dream, I'm in a parking lot, and I think I just have a view of this. I'm like in the back of the parking lot, and I have a view of the whole big parking lot, and there's a storefront, and I knew that was our church. I knew it was our church. And pulls in the parking lot this truck with a trailer on the back, and it pulls into the parking space right in the front of the church. And on the license plate, it said, Evander Holyfield. Yeah, very clear. And there was a guy in the front seat, and then there was another guy in the passenger seat, and I'm pretty sure that guy in the front seat was Evander. And they sat there for a while, and I knew that it wasn't a Sunday. So we weren't there, and I couldn't do anything about it. I was just like, it's not Sunday. What are you doing here? Why are you here today? Nobody was coming out to greet him. You could just tell he was waiting for something. And I also knew that he had in his trailer a ridiculous amount of books, something that he, like his life story that he had written, and he was bringing them to us. And so it was very frustrating because I couldn't do anything about it. But then, he just kind of pulls out. And I woke up with a song in my head. It was actually a song we had sung the day before. It was, Are You Ready? There was a tag in that song. It's, Are You Ready? And so, of course, the dream, I felt like we weren't ready. He drove away, God. And for the last, couple weeks, I've been kind of thinking about that and feeling like, okay, what does this mean? I'm feeling kind of guilty. Like, what am I not ready for, And asking him. And, well, guess what Evander means? Evander means the good man. So the good man from Holyfield came to bring us a gift, and we were closed. Ooh, Didn't seem very good to me, you know? So last week during worship, because I had been so focused on the fact that we had missed something that I was having a hard time kind of seeing what he was trying to say. And so last week during worship, he said to me, "Who is Evander? Remember who he is." And so I had looked him up, and I had kind of researched about him. And for those of you who don't know who he is exactly, I mean, I knew he was a boxer, but I didn't remember anything else about him. But he reigned as the undisputed champion at cruiserweight in the late 1980s, and then heavyweight in the 90s. And he remains the only boxer in history to win the undisputed championship in 2 weight classes. So his nickname is the Real Deal and the Warrior. And he holds world titles in 3 different decades, the 80s, 90s, and the 2000s. He's the one that got his ear bit off by Mike Tyson. It was him. So, an undisputed champion, God is sending us an undisputed champion, right? And he wants to bring us his message, his story. Are we ready? Are we ready? So, who is the undisputed champion of all time? Jesus, the good man from the Holyfield. And so last week when I was just asking God, he kind of made it clear to me that it wasn't so much about being closed, because actually I did see that in the vision later, I saw him in a bookstore, in our bookstore, basically. So I knew he came back, but it still felt like we weren't ready. But anyway, it's more about our heart position. It's all about our heart. We might be open in some moments and some things and expecting some things, but are we at all times, are we ready at all times for what he has for us? He wants to impart wisdom and understanding, and he wants to, most importantly, because this is all about, fighting and battles and the undisputed champion and boxing, he wants us to win all the battles that come our way. He wants to make us undisputed champions. He wrote a book to help us. And one of the things that I have been struggling with is this feeling that when I go deep with the Lord, and the enemy comes along and, and so then I shrink back a little bit, like, ooh, that's kind of, that battle is a little too hard for me. I don't know if I can do that, and so I kind of shrink back, and I keep kind of doing that, like, okay, I'm gonna go for it, got this, and then, something happens and I shrink back, and I'm frustrated with myself for doing that, very frustrated. And it really is like a boxing match, because lately I haven't even wanted to be in the ring, like somebody else can do that. Does anybody else feel that way? Okay, all right, good. So that's what I was saying to the Lord last week. I was saying, I'm sorry, Lord. I am sorry. I don't want to be afraid of you, but I am for that. I'm afraid for what's going to happen if I just go for it fully, My heart has fear, and I don't want that. I don't want to be afraid of him. So I want my heart in the right position. And his response is about, get ready. I want to make you into that champion too. Like, I want that. I'm afraid of it, but I want it. He wants it even more. He wants us to become that. And so this week, the Lord led me to read 1st and 2nd Samuel. So basically, and then in the prayer room, we're talking all about David. Basically, the whole way through. I just read it all the way through, actually more than once. And David was a great warrior. He was an undisputed champion of his time. He won so many battles. And as I read through those stories, it really just became clear to me, what God is saying. Saul is king, in the beginning, and then David is a king in training, serving under Saul, and then the Lord rejects Saul as king because he listens to people. It takes a long time before David becomes king, right? And what is it about David? What is it about David that makes him God's king, God's champion? David always inquired of the Lord. Always inquired of the Lord. When a battle came his way, he inquired of the Lord, right? And Saul went to the man first. Hey, what do you think? What do you think about that? He didn't go to God first. He went to man first. So David knew who won the battles. He knew who was the winner of the battles, of his battles. And that was his strength, right? His strength wasn't in the Lord. His strength was the Lord. And Saul himself tells Samuel in 1 Samuel 15:24 that he transgressed against the Lord because he feared the people and obeyed their voice above God's. We're moving in a time where we cannot fear the people. We have to listen to God's voice. Very, very, very important right now. But every time there was a battle and there was an enemy in David's path, right? It says he inquired of the Lord. And the Lord answered, and he won his battles. Just like Mark was talking about, what should I do? And he's listening to the Lord. So David's life shows us how we're supposed to fight our battles, right? The battle comes, we inquire of the Lord, do what he says, and then we win the battle. David had full confidence that the Lord was going to give him a victory. And that's the part, when you read it quickly through, you really see that confidence that he had in the Lord. It's just, I want that. But you know what made his enemies even hotter against him? The very thing that won his victory. His confidence in God is the very thing that made his enemies mad. And he displayed God's goodness and he displayed God's wisdom because he was walking with God. And so Saul was very hot against him, right, from the beginning. David didn't do anything but good, right? He didn't do anything good but good for Saul and served him. But Saul was very jealous. And here's where the Lord really ministered to me in this story. In 1 Samuel 18:29, it says, when Saul saw and knew that the Lord was with David, and that Michal, I don't know how you say her name, his daughter loved him, Saul was still more afraid of David, and Saul became David's constant enemy. For some reason, that's just really ministered to me. It's like, constant enemy. Anybody feel like you have a constant enemy? David had one. And then, when Saul died, he still had his son. The enemy rose up in his son, and he had an enemy there. Jesus had a constant enemy. And the enemy tried to kill him as a baby, and then, all he did was do good and heal people, and then, you know what happens, right? He had a constant enemy. But of course, Jesus defeated the enemy once and for all, right? And he wants us to defeat the enemy in our lives too. But here's the heart shift that needs to happen, okay? What I needed. I'm preaching to myself here, guys. It's this false sense of hope that when I finish this, then I'll be ready, or then I'll be good, or when this battle is over, then am I done yet? Am I done yet? This feeling like I'm going battle to battle to battle, and, I'm thinking that at some point there won't be a battle, and I'll be. Am I the only one that feels that way? Or rest will come. Oh yeah, when I stop having this, then rest, right? And so we're just waiting for that to happen or expecting it, So our heart needs to settle, right? That on this earth there is a constant enemy. And Jesus is going to flip it all at some point. But right now, we've been born into a battle, and life is a battle, and there is a constant enemy. Right, exactly. So, yeah, it's not bad news. It's actually good news. I got really excited. I know it seems weird, but it's actually because my heart went into a different position. Like, oh, okay, I'm here, and I can win all the battles, So I put that, these pictures, right? The kids painted. I don't know if you can see them, but I'll hold them up. But see, you got like fire, trees. It looks like trees in a battle, doesn't it? And this is a tree that is settled in battle, though. You see the orange? It's in battle. They're both in battle, but one of them is, struggling in the battle, and the other one is settled in the battle. It's like, wow. Jesus wants to impart the heart of a champion into each one of us. And that thing, that confidence that's going to take away the fear of being in the battle and the fear of going forward in the battle. And actually, when you see it, to actually go right at it. Hey, what is this? What is this on you? Get off of you, That's what he wants. He wants us, hey, I see the enemy's doing something in your life. I'm coming to help you. I'm going to get my sword, and I'm coming to help you. I say this a lot, but we used to get excited when we were just brand new young Christians. We got really excited when there was like somebody sick. When we first learned that God was the healer, we got excited. It's like, oh, you have cancer? Oh my gosh, okay. God's going to do something. We used to get excited because we knew. We were like David. We had this very, very young, zeal. But I want that, but I want it now in the right motivation, because in that time I was kind of doing it in the wrong motivation. So, anyway, the rest doesn't come when we're done battling. The rest is already there. We've already won. Rest comes when we have confidence, like David, that our heart is fully assured, right? That God, the champion of all, is in us. He's in us, and he is with us. And it also, he says he lays a table before us in the presence of our enemies, right? He wants us to be able to sit in the presence of our enemies, nothing on our shoulders, nothing, whatever, it's nothing, right? And I'm going to read that real quick because I read it in the Passion and I got really excited. Psalm 23. Let's read some of it. He opens before me pathways to God's pleasure, and leads me along in his footsteps of righteousness, so that I can bring honor to his name. Lord, even when your path takes me through the valley of deepest darkness, fear will never conquer me, for you already have. You remain close to me and lead me through it all the way. Your authority is my strength and my peace. The comfort of your love takes away my fear. This is all about fear, guys. Have you figured that out yet? I'll never be lonely, for you are near. You become my delicious feast, even when the enemies dare to fight. You anoint me with the fragrance of your Holy Spirit. You give me all I can drink of you until my heart overflows. So why would I fear the future? For your goodness and love pursue me all the days of my life. Then afterward, when my life is through, I'll return to your glorious presence to be forever with you. Why would I fear the future? Oh, I have to read something. I got to read the opposite for a second. This is in Hebrews 3. This ignited my anger with that generation. Okay, this is, well, I'll just read it. They wander in their hearts just like they do with their feet, and they refuse to learn my ways. My heart grieved over them, so I decreed, they will never enter into the calming rest of my spirit. So search your hearts every day, my brothers and sisters, and make sure that none of you has evil or unbelief hiding within you, for it will lead you astray and make you unresponsive to the living God. Oh, that was Hebrews 3:10. That hit me because I read that right after I had that dream. I do not want to be unresponsive to my living God. So I'm here repenting too. It's our hearts that wander. It's our hearts. And we become unresponsive because we're afraid too. We get afraid because what is he going to tell us? You know, sometimes we're scared. He's going to make us do something we don't want to do. I don't want to be found wandering. I want my heart assured like David. You know, David had no one to believe in him but God. So he believed about himself what God believed about him. He only had God to tell him who he was. So he believed in God's ability in him. If you don't have confidence in yourself, you really don't have confidence in him working in you. And that's what I need to get. It's like, it's not me. It's not me. It's God. Jesus is in you. He is your confidence, but he can only do through you what you believe. He can't do if you're not believing it. I have a Joyce Meyer Bible, and this is what she says. Confidence is something we decide to have. It is more than a feeling. It is a decision to step out boldly into whatever we feel God is leading us to do. We learn about God, about his love, his ways, and his word. Then ultimately, we must decide whether we believe it or not. If we do believe, then we have confidence. If we do not believe, we live in doubt about everything. Self-doubt makes us double-minded, and James 1:8 teaches us that a double-minded person is unstable and uncertain about everything. We really cannot go forward until we decide to have confidence in God and in ourselves. That's good, right? In order to do that, we got to get in the ring. We got to get in the ring, put on our gloves, right? It was funny, yesterday we had the Patriot event here, and one of the speakers read The Man in the Ring. If you haven't read that, go read it. The Man in the Ring. And I was like, oh gosh, yes, Lord. Yes, put me in the ring. So on the other side of that thing we're afraid of is our confidence and courage. The thing that we are afraid of, we go after it, we get to the other side of it, and that's where we get our courage. We find our courage, and love and strength comes after the fight, you know? Because there's battles that I've won, and you can't take that away from me. I've won those battles, and if you try to tell me something different, I'm like, you don't know. I know. I got this, right? And then when they come back to you, it's easy, those battles, right? But then there's ones that come at you that seem too hard for you, right? But we don't go through something hard and lose something. We go through hard things and we gain something intangible. There's something so good that comes from it. But we don't have to fight every battle. So I'm not saying, let's just fight everything and, we get really tired if we're going to do that. We fight where God tells us to fight, right? And that's the important thing. Are there battles that we're in that we're tired from that we shouldn't even be in? You need to know, where do you want me, God? I was reminded of when we came here to plant this church. Somebody told me that I would be really bad at church planting. They literally told me that. You'd be really bad at that. You shouldn't do that. You would hate it. So that sat on me, the whole beginning of our whole days. Probably 5 years that sat on me. Where I was like, yeah, I suck at this. Seriously. I know, right? It was such a bad lie. I knew it was a lie, but you can know it is a lie, but then when it starts looking that way around you, you go, man, yeah, I was right about that. Well, one day I was sitting there thinking about it and just getting so frustrated, and God said, I never told you to plant a church. I just told you to go to Fayetteville. It's like, oh, but it took it off of me. This is his church. He's doing this. I'm not doing it. He just told me to go. It's not me, And it just completely removed it. Hallelujah. David asked God every time, am I supposed to do this? Should I fight this battle? Should I go up? There's 400 Philistines over there. What should I do, God? Jesus is in you. He's your confidence. But we have to be obedient, right? Obedience is for our benefit because obedience is what defeats the enemy. It's when we do what he says to do. That's when we get the battle is won. So, do you guys want the undisputed champion inside of you? I do. Are you ready to get back in the fight? Are you ready to get back in the fight? I think you were just basically saying that this morning, right? You were saying that. So Jesus said to me, are you willing to follow me even if you have a constant enemy? Yes, 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 Jesus. It's not just, easy. It's not easy. The life Jesus calls us to is not easy. Come and follow, but it's also come and die. Right? Jesus became human to fully identify with us. He did this so that he could experience death and annihilate the effects of the intimidating accuser who holds against us the power of death by embracing death. Jesus sets free those who live their entire lives in bondage to the tormenting dread of death. That's Hebrews 2:14 through 15. We need to get that out of us, the fear out of us, and just that dread, you know? He set us free so that we didn't have to be afraid of that. And so this morning, we're gonna pray. We're gonna ask for an impartation of the heart of a champion. The kings in the Bible, they went out to fight the battle, right? They were all warriors. They were like on the front lines. We're called to be kings and priests. The battle's all around us. If we believe we are weak, we'll manifest weakness. We need to get a hold of all the I can'ts, things that we're not believing, and we need to start saying, I can. Joel 3:9-10, proclaim this among the nations, prepare war, stir up the mighty men, stirring you up today, guys. Let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, what? I am strong. Come on. Rest comes from confidence that he's there in our battles. And he's our fortress, right? God doesn't just want to give us strength. He wants to be our strength. In 1 Samuel 15:29, he is called the strength of Israel. So Hillary, will you come up? And worship band, come up. How do we receive this strength? By faith. By faith. So I want anybody who wants some of his strength, who feels they need it. I'm going to be up here too, because I believe what he told me he's going to do today. We need to be strengthened. I think Marion said in the prayer, the weary warriors or something. Battle weary. Are you battle weary? Have you been battle weary? Come up here. He's going to arm us this morning, strengthen us. You have something to say? Okay.
So this has been kind of exploding out of me. I got to get it out. So God gave me a word last week when I saw the kids running around, and I actually heard another parent say what I was feeling, which was, oh my gosh, kids, will you just chill out? And when I was about to say that to my son, my youngest, God stopped me and he said, those children are wiser than you. And thank God Scott was listening to this Holy Spirit last week, and he had the kids rejoicing on the stage, because what God was showing me was exactly what you shared this morning about Saul. Saul's heart was that all of Israel would see that he was wise and that he was chosen of God, and that I'm the man. I'm fighting the enemies. I stand a head taller than everyone else. But David's heart was to go with God even when it was not popular, even when it was hard. And I sit in the pew and I feel really awkward and my skin crawls when my kids do things that are weird. and they run in front of the church when everybody else is, trying to cry out to God. And God is telling me, shut up, Rob. Your children are wiser than you, because they're just rejoicing. So when you talk about, do we want to feel the power of God? The price is, God, I'm here for you, no matter what, no matter how weird or stupid it makes me look, no matter if you call me to jump up and down or do something weird, I'm here.
All right.
Yeah. So while you were speaking earlier about your vision, the Lord was speaking to me, and you said, are you ready? And he was telling me that's not the question I was asking. He said, why are you not ready? I already crushed the head of the devil. I have crushed your enemies. I have defeated them already. So why are you not just going out and fighting now? You're fighting an enemy who can't stand against you. So why are you not ready? And that's what was just resonating over and over. And then I was sitting there in my seat, and my wife was like, you need to go tell someone. And as he spoke, the fear of, looking awkward in front of my children or looking awkward in front of my friends, it's my own fear. And as you spoke, you got to stand up in obedience. And that's what I'm trying to do, be obedient. And he's defeated the enemy. So.
All right, let's do this. Come on, everybody who feels this call, get up here. Come on. Listen. Dr. Michael Heiser says that the devil we talked about this, it's all the same message. The devil is a defeated foe, and the only thing he can do is convince you he's not defeated. So it's time to say, look him in the face and say, you're a loser, I'm a winner, the living God is in me. And it's time to bring ourselves as a weapon to him, okay? So let's get fired up. Come on.
Is this the hour when the future learns our name? Will we stand for liberty and reject the tyrant's reign? Or will we choose the coward's way and to power meekly bow? The time to stand for freedom is now. The time to stand for freedom is now. When we read what's written of the ages gone before, how often have we wondered why they didn't do something more? How many souls have perished because the righteous won't engage? Passive and appeasing, enabling evil's rage. We are writing history with the choices that we make. That we are living here and now is destiny and not mistake. It's our actions that reveal us, not our hopes or hollow vows. The time to stand for freedom is now. The time to stand for freedom is now. This is the hour when the future learns our name. Will our children honor us or hang their heads in shame? So let us stand for righteousness, our allegiance to God vow. The time to stand for freedom is now. The time to stand for freedom is now. This is the hour. We will fall if we don't stand. This is the hour to throw off our fear of man. This is the hour to take our place in history among the names, proclaiming we are free. This is the hour when the future learns our name. Will our children honor us or hang their heads in shame? So let us stand for righteousness, our allegiance to God vow. The time to stand for freedom is now. The time to stand for freedom is now. This is the hour. This is the hour. This is the hour to throw off our fear of man. This is the hour. This is the hour. Fear bow, 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 fear bow. This is the hour. We will fall if we don't stand. This is the hour to throw off our fear of man. This is the hour to take our place in history. Among the names, proclaiming we are free. This is the hour.